Hi, welcome to CloudEagle's Insights in Minutes. I'm always struck by just how many SaaS tools companies juggle these days. I read that a mid sized business might use upwards of 300 apps. That's wild compared to even a few years ago.
It's honestly mind-boggling. All those logins, different vendors. No wonder SaaS agreements have become such an essential part of business operations. They're more than paperwork. They really anchor the vendor-customer relationship.
Exactly. And the risks get bigger as companies scale. Without a solid agreement in place, you're practically inviting confusion or, worse, legal headaches down the line.
That's what makes these contracts so critical. They spell out who's responsible for what you're paying for, and even how your data is handled. It's like setting the ground rules before you start playing the game.
Let's dig into the nitty gritty. When you're handed a SaaS contract, what's the first thing you typically scan for? For me, it's the agreement scope, what actually comes with the service.
Funny you say that, because agreement scope is huge. I always want to know how many users can access the software, and exactly what features are included. Sometimes, those details are tucked away in fine print.
Oh, and the subscription terms, those get me every time. The pricing models can be so different flat rate, per user, or usage based. I've seen teams get blindsided by unexpected renewal fees just because they missed a clause on auto renewal.
I've seen it too. And it's not just renewals. Some contracts even lay out extra charges for adding users or accessing support. That's why reading those sections carefully is non-negotiable.
I've seen a lot of folks gloss over the service level agreement, but it's absolutely a deal breaker if things go south. That 99.9% uptime promise, it's not just a bragging point, it's your safety net.
Absolutely. But it's the details under the hood that matter, like what happens if the provider misses that uptime? Are you entitled to credits or compensation? Plus, response time for support issues can make or break your experience.
Right. And let's not forget data ownership and security. In SaaS, your company's sensitive data lives on someone else's servers. If the agreement doesn't spell out who owns the data, or what happens if there's a breach, that's a red flag.
Exactly. I always look for encryption standards and how data backups are handled. And then there's the liability clause. So often, vendors cap their responsibility super low. If something goes wrong, you don't want to be left holding the bag.
That brings me to something that catches a lot of teams off guard: termination and auto renewal. It's so easy to overlook, but missing a renewal deadline can mean you're locked in for another year.
I've had something like that happen too. Some contracts are practically set to auto-renew by default and require notice months in advance to cancel. And then, if you want out early, you're hit with penalties or loss of data access.
And support and maintenance, so many assume 24/7's help is standard, but that's not always the case. Some vendors only offer limited support windows or charge extra for quick responses.
That's why I always check for promised response times, what support channels are available, and whether maintenance downtime is communicated in advance. Surprises in these areas can really throw off your operations.
One last area that doesn't get enough attention: the product modification clause. SaaS tools evolve constantly, and sometimes major features get changed or dropped overnight.
You're so right. Providers usually keep the right to tweak their software or pricing as they see fit, with or without much warning. That can really impact your workflows or budgets if you're not paying attention.
I appreciate agreements that require advance notice for major changes. At least then, you have a chance to react, maybe even walk away if the changes don't suit your needs.
Totally. And that brings everything full circle. Reading and negotiating these clauses isn't just legal nitpicking. It's about protecting your team and setting yourself up for success long term.
So, before we wrap up, what's one practical habit you'd recommend to anyone dealing with SaaS contracts? For me, it's keeping all agreements organized in one place, no more digging through email at renewal time.
I couldn't agree more. I'd also say, use a contract management tool. There are platforms that help automate reminders and track key terms. It takes a lot of pressure off remembering every little detail yourself.
And don't be afraid to negotiate. Vendors expect it, and often they'll work with you on things like auto renewal, liability caps, or even support add ons if you just ask.
That's the big takeaway. These agreements are meant to be clear and fair for both sides. With a little preparation, you can avoid surprises, keep costs under control, and get the most out of your SaaS investments. Thanks for joining us today. Take care, stay vigilant, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Insights in Minutes.